in California now, anyhow.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, let's be clear here. Let's be clear. Stephanie and Bill are talking about marijuana. When you say drugs, what are you including?
Well, that's the question.
That's the problem. The largest untaxed cash crop in America, not just California, is marijuana. If it were taxed and regulated the way tobacco has been for years, while tobacco kills hundreds of thousands of people, and as far as I know, no one's ever really died as a direct result of smoking reefer. But if it were
one guy choked on a Cheeto.
A Cheeto, yeah. Well, that taxing marijuana, legalizing marijuana, but do you say that about cocaine? Do you say it about opium? Do you say it about and all the opium drugs like heroin and so on and so forth? Because now those drugs, you're getting into a problem, arguably, that becomes a societal problem, just like alcoholism or just like cigarettes. It becomes a societal problem because, first, it jacks up the cost of medical care unbelievably. Secondly, puts a lot of people at risk who are doing nothing but driving down the highway, for example, and they wind up dead because some son of a bitch is behind the wheel drunk. So when we talk about legalizing drugs, I think we've got to be careful. I'm for the total legalization. I don't even think it should be an issue about marijuana. But beyond that, it's we need to really take a look at that.
Here's where I draw the line. If it can grow, it's legal. If it's made in a lab, it's regulated.
Yeah, if it's a pharmaceutical, that's a different sort of thing. Yeah. In other words, cocaine, maybe,
no,
coca leaf would be my guess.
I have chewed coca leaf. It ain't no big deal. It's like strong coffee.
Yeah. If you want to chew coca leaves, have at it.
Exactly.
But who in the hell does that? I mean, in the Andes.
Many Andean.
Yeah, in the Andes they do that. But, in the United States, somebody's going to buy, hey, how much of that brick of coca leaves? Bullshit,
let's keep in mind.
So it won't be an issue.
Let's keep in mind that in the United States in the 19th century, one of the biggest selling products was Lydia Pinkham's tonic, which was opium. Yeah. I mean, there were all these opium, and it wasn't until, I think it was Bayer came along, maybe it wasn't, but it was one of the big modern drug companies came along in 1909 and refined that opium into a product called heroin as a cough syrup, that it really seriously became a problem.
What about Coca-Cola?
Well, Coca-Cola had cocaine.
Cocaine.
Sure, yeah. And, if it was just a coca extract, that would be a little...
Now it's got phosphoric acid in it, right? Which is worse.
Right. Well, caffeine, anyway.
Tom told us before the show all about sodium...
Potassium chloride.
Potassium chloride.
It's in this bottle of water.
Let's not mention brand names.
And how dangerous,
water.
Potassium chloride is. And so I immediately looked at my Jack Black bottle to see if it was in there.
None.
No.
Christopher Hitchens had a good idea about the opium crop in Afghanistan. They're the leading opium producers and ultimately heroin producers in the world. And Christopher Hitchens said, instead of going to war there and trying to kill people to get them to keep from growing it, buy it. Yeah. Just buy it all from them. Right. It's not like we don't need opium. We're actually growing or having grown opium in other parts of the world.
Grown in New Zealand.
Because we need it for morphine drugs. I mean,
well, in a sense,
buy it.
In a sense, the opium crop is being bought, but it's being bought by people who then convert it into weaponry. The so-called arms merchants. That I wonder if we will ever know to what extent the drug trade fuels other activities like international weapons transfers and weapons manufacturing.
Ron, as one of my friends says, if he could go back in time, he wouldn't kill Hitler. He'd buy his art. See, and then he wouldn't be a frustrated artist, and it would all be.
For a minute, for a brief second.
Can we just agree to legalize pot?
Yes, I think we can all agree to legalize pot, all right?
And also,
you say that as though it would make your life a lot easier.
It would. And can we also forget the bullshit that grass leads to, those heavy drugs?
Yeah, We're in progressive talk. We can't afford housekeepers to go buy our crap. You know what I mean?
That's it.
Like Rush can.
Reminds me of that curb
Bill's
your
got to go
curb,
schlep out himself and buy his weed at the
right.
7-Eleven.
That curb your enthusiasm where Larry goes to buy reefer from the guy. Remember that episode? And you know, I picture Bill standing near Lafayette Park. You know, psst, hey, psst, come here. Hello? How you doing?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding, Bill.
No, you're not. It's, that's close to the
penny
White
loafers.
House.
Give 'em
too.
away.
Yeah, it's the best stuff.
We've talked about healthcare lots pieces, but let's focus on it for a little bit if we can. This comes from Joanna and Jim in Woodinville, and this is where we should start. Are we going to get a strong public option in the healthcare reform bill? Will we?
Well, it remains to be seen. But if we don't, it could be one of the worst things that happened to healthcare reform that could possibly happen. I mean, because everybody will say, well, see, we tried the public option and it didn't work.
Well, that's the issue.
Socialized medicine.
That's the issue that the medical industrial complex is targeting the most, because they know that if there's a public option in all these insurance plans, the first reaction to that is to drive down the cost. I mean, they'll try to survive by driving down the cost of their premiums. But I think eventually more and more people will move to the public option because it'll be affordable. So that's the one that's in the crosshairs. That's the one that's being targeted. And that's the one that the blue dog so-called Democrats are trying their hardest, I think, to kill.
Well, you've heard the Republican arguments against the public option, which essentially boil down to, well, if the public can have the government program, everybody will do that.
Yeah.
And then the private insurance industry will just wither and die. Well, we can't let that happen, can we? Jeez. They're really upfront about it. It's like, well, it'll be so much better than the private insurance that we can't allow it to happen.
But you
Which
know what?
brings us back to Tom Coburn's amendment.
President Obama had the best line about that. He said the same people that say if we have the public plan option, it's going to drive the insurance companies out of business, are the same people who say the government can't do anything. Yeah. Right. You know, can't do anything, right? But, you know, just to answer your question, I'm not sure we're going to get it, to tell the truth, because the insurance companies are really pumping the money on that one issue. Again, the Democrat, if we don't get it, it won't be because of the Republicans. It'll be because of Democrats. As far as I'm concerned, if there's no public plan option, there should be no bill. No bill. I'd rather see no
Amen.
bill at all.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Kill it.
I mean, you know, these
Start over from scratch with H.R. 676.
Yeah, kill it.
I mean, you know, David, Bill is right. I mean, these ads that are flooding the market. All I know is that Barack Obama is trying to keep families that are eating near some sort of lake and men breaking wood over their feet to, I don't know, they're trying to keep them having sugary drinks or some shit. And it really is. They're just trying to confuse the issue. And by the way, if you break wood over your leg, you're going to break your fucking femur and you'll need health care. So, you know, but you're right. I mean, they're just throwing all this money at it to try to confuse the issue. But I agree with you. If we don't have a meaningful public option, we don't have health care reform.
And again, I've been pushing this with Gibbs, you know, because like Chuck Grassley says, and here you mentioned this point before the break about the leadership, and the president, I think, has to stand up and take charge here, is Grassley says, if there's a public plan option, you won't get any Republican votes. But what President Obama has not said is, without a public plan option, right, I'm not going to sign the bill.
Right.
Now, he has to say that, I believe, and tell the Democrats.
All that hard work in the Senate Finance Committee for naught, because if it comes out of there without a public option, I'm vetoing it.
Yeah.
So go back to work.
But if he says that, then he's drawn the line, and then that's the cover that the Blue Dogs would need. Well, he's not going to endorse it anyway, so to hell with it. Then the whole idea dies. I don't necessarily think that's a good idea, Ron. I think that he ought to use his so-called bully pulpit to work over these Democrats in Congress and just say, look, we've got to have that. And I will sign the bill, but you have to put that in. You have to put it in.
Well, we're saying the same thing.
We're saying the same
if you don't
thing.
put it in, I'll veto the bill.
He has not said that.
Well,
Mike.
as long as it's not out there, where the right wing and the advertising and the big pharma can seize on that statement, because if he says it and it comes out, then it's very clear what they have to do. And that is just pump enough money to enough of these key Democrats, and it's dead. I think that's maybe he should say that to his little inner circle of